Breaking news today as we have a brand new update from Perplexity Labs. So this is a new feature directly inside Perplexity. I'm going to be testing out today, showing you exactly how it works. And essentially they've said Labs is for more complex tasks. It's like having an entire team at your disposal. Build anything from analytical reports and presentations to dynamic dashboards, now available for all pro users. We'll be testing out. Here's some examples of what you can do. So if we play this now, we'll have a cheeky gander, go full screen on this bad boy. You can see an example of a trading strategy search right here. So for example, you could come up with like trading strategies, and then it could go off, research the latest data, pull up some recent reports, etc., and look at historic prices, and then you can see it's pulling out all the information right there. Right, it creates these really nice dashboards, charts, tables, and you can also flick between like different apps as well. Here's another one. So it's kind of like deep research, but it's much faster from what I've seen so far, and also Labs is using like different tools and actually stores those tools, right? So for example, if we have a look at an example search right here on the trading strategy example, right, you can see what we've got directly in the search. So we've got this full dashboard over here. So it breaks down strategic overviews, performance, etc. We can view this full screen. And the reports are super nice. Kind of reminds me of GenSpark or Manus as well. But you can see it breaks down like the strategy performance overview for trading, detailed year-by-year results, strategy comparison charts. So it can actually create charts too, even like a yearly performance heat map. And then it comes up with these trading strategy recommendations, as you can see, which is wild. I also like the presentation. I don't know if you've ever used deep research reports from Google or anywhere else, but it can be an absolute nightmare in terms of like just getting huge walls of text that you can't really understand, and it doesn't really make sense. Whereas this, it cuts all the fluff, gives you a nice report, gets straight to it, boom, right? And you got the dashboard ready to go along with the charts and everything else. Let's pull up another example now. So we've got an example of a short sci-fi film concept in noir style about a 30-year-old female scientist living on Mars in the future when a calamity hits. Create 9 storyboards and a full screenplay, right? So this is not just like your basic deep research report. This actually goes far beyond that and creates something way better. By the way, if you want all the notes from today and everything else, feel free to get that inside the AI Success Lab, completely free, link in the comments description. You can grab all the resources from today. Plus, we've actually got a course inside here, as you can see, for Perplexity. It's Perplexity Masterclass and the examples if you just want to check all this stuff out yourself, all right? So let's get back to it, and essentially you can see the sci-fi report right here. So it came up with the name, the concept, created the images as well, and that image is pretty nice, is a noir style. And then additionally we've got the full film concept review, like you can see step by step right here. So actually went off, came up with the concept, drafted the storyboard, described the scenes. You can see, for example, storyboard panel 5, the underground chase sequence, and then agentically it came up with like the whole sort of idea and all the images and step by step how it would map out the film. So it's pretty crazy stuff. And if we go back to Perplexity, here's the announcement. So it literally just came out on a few hours ago by the Perplexity team. And they've said, introducing Perplexity Labs. Perplexity Labs is a way to bring your projects to life faster than ever before. Available today for pro subscribers. We built Perplexity Search for people who want answers. And the thing about this is, right, like, this is kind of like Google, but on steroids, right? So, for example, you could never do this inside Google or, even inside ChatGPT or something like that. You're really going to struggle with it. So if we went onto ChatGPT, or we went onto Google and said to do the same thing, like, it's just going to send you a bunch of links. It's not going to be able to create the content, even though AI is built into Google search. The same with, for example, ChatGPT. If we use the model that it recommends for writing and exploring ideas, and we give it exactly the same prompt, so develop a sci-fi film, etc., it's got that agentic element, and it can create images, but it's not going to create anything that blows you away in the same way that, for example, the results from Perplexity do, right? So we'll compare those side by side in a second. We'll wait for that to come back. And you see it's creating it on canvas, but we'll come back to that in a second, and I'll show you what the differences are. So, as we keep going through this, the other thing is, well, this is basically like a really fast deep research agent. So I don't know if you ever use ChatGPT for deep research, but typically it will take you like 30 minutes to get this report back. And then when you get the report back, it's full of like fluff and AI fluff words. So it's probably learned from Reddit or something like that. It doesn't really make sense. Now, the way to use this, if you want to start using it, is if you go over to Perplexity Home, and then you're going to click on the Labs feature over here. And this is how you can create projects from scratch. You need to have the Pro plan, which I think is like $20 a month. So it is kind of like a similar sort of pricing structure to Manus and, for example, GenSpark, which are other AI search engines that can kind of do the same thing. They're like super agents that can go off and create dashboards and code stuff as well. And actually, I'm going to do another video on that in the future, so watch out for that. But basically, you can see how it works step by step. Now, if we go back to the report, this is a report from ChatGPT 4.5, right? So if we go inside here, let's see what we got back. Side by side, we'll pull them up, and you can just tell me which one you think is the best. So if we pull these up, this is ChatGPT 4.5, which, you know, is a creative model for ChatGPT. And then if we pull up Perplexity side by side, and we'll see which one comes back with better results, right? So, for example, it's come up with the title, Crimson Shadows, which I wouldn't say is as good as Red Dust. To be honest, Red Dust is a pretty cool idea and name. And then also, if we compare the storyboard section here, you see how Perplexity actually has generated the images for the storyboard, right? In noir as well, right? In the black and white. Whereas, for example, the storyboards inside ChatGPT, it's just generated like generic descriptions of each storyboard. And also, there's no images. And then additionally, if we have a look through here, the report from Perplexity is just way more in depth, way more interesting, right? It's described each scene in more detail. It's told us and shown us exactly what it should show in each section. It's just a lot more creative. It's a lot more interesting in what it creates. Now, one of the cool things about Perplexity is when you're actually creating content with it. So, for example, if we go to our settings inside Pro mode here, and we go to preferences, I think it is, we can scroll down and we can actually choose our preferred model, right? So you can actually use, for example, Claude for Sonnet inside your responses. You also get DeepSeek R1, O4 Mini, Sonnet Thinking. So you've got a choice of reasoning models and also all the major models that are performing the best right now. And so between all of these, you get some really good options for getting your reports back and then also generating responses, right? Now, if you actually select the labs results here, it uses a combination of different agents. But if you're using like the normal search mode here, then that's where you can select between the different models, right? So here's some examples of the sort of stuff you can research if you want some ideas. So business, finance, all sorts of stuff, which is pretty cool. And they've actually got a projects gallery. So you can actually, if you need some like inspiration and you're not sure, okay, what to look at, etc. I'll put the link inside the AI Success Lab, link in the comments description if you want to get this stuff for free. But basically, you can actually view people's creations here. So if you need a bit of inspiration, if you're not sure how to apply this to your own business, etc., then you can just open up all these links and see what you get back. So if we open this up, let's have a look. So for example, the latest research on Ozempic, which is pretty interesting. This is another one. So it said, go to the SEC and review Berkshire Hathaway's latest 10 quarters, 10-Q for Q1 2025, build a pie chart, blah, blah, blah. Actually does it, right? And then if you go to the assets section over here, you can actually see that he's got some of the apps that it's built to do the research, some of the tables, etc. So you can actually download the assets that it's used to create the report, if that makes sense. So if you need to like download a pie chart for your presentation, if you want to get the assets, then you can as well. And then in the sources section over here, you can see exactly where it's referenced all the information from, right? So when it's sourcing these reports, it tends to look at like really authoritative places. So for example, like Forbes, Berkshire Hathaway, CNBC, like all the big names in the industry when it's getting those reports. And then if we go over to tasks over here, it's showing you step by step what tasks it's performed along the way. So that's basically what you can get back from Perplexity when you're running these reports. Pretty impressive, super powerful tool, and very easy to use as well, and also super fast, right? So let's have a look at this report. I actually downloaded some files as well for the internet, so you can see here it's got a CSV breaking down the complete holding analysis. It's got like shares, percent, value, millions, ticker, etc. company. Then we've got the chart and everything else. Here's another example. So someone said create an interactive global economic indicator tracker dashboard that monitors key economic indicators from around the world. If we check this out, this is actually like an interactive app, if that makes sense. So you've got the global economic indicator tracker, and then you can actually click on these different options right here. So it's like an interactive, almost like an interactive presentation, I would say. It's actually created that in code, right? And then you can view it full screen as well. And I assume you can probably share that as well. So if we copy that link, open it in incognito, see what we get back. Yeah, so the assets are actually shareable that you create too. So this is published on Amazon, as you can see, and then we can use the chart, share it with the team, etc. Now, on the right-hand side as well, you can see that you can switch between all these different indicators. So, for example, like unemployment rates, flick through, get the latest information on each, and you've got different tabs at the top, right? It's kind of like bulk.new, but it created something almost perfect first time round, right? You can see the chat back and forth, and it's already pre-deployed, so you don't need to deploy it yourself. Really powerful stuff. I do like the idea of the project gallery, because then you can just see what people have created, what people are doing with it, etc. And Perplexity is kind of like a social network. So for example, if we actually go over to the creator in the top right here, you can see how many people have viewed that report, how many people have shared it, when it was last updated, who created it, etc. And you can share that with people too. So if we have a look at this, I'm planning a backpacking trip across Thailand. Can you recommend high quality cameras, blah, blah, blah. It's like a really good quality blog post without affiliate links. So if we click on those, for example, it pulls up all the information about the product. I think it would be awesome for just agentically comparing, okay, what are the best products to buy for this specific thing? And you can see how specific this is, by the way. It's like, we need shoes for a backpacking trip across Thailand, high quality, sorry, not shoes, cameras, and something that can handle Thailand's heat. Here's a budget, here's a terrain I'll be walking on, etc. Really cool stuff. Better than most blog posts, let's be honest. Here's one I actually created earlier. So I said, what are the latest AI updates specifically for this week? DeepSeek, R1, stuff like that. I actually created this chart. Then it researched, for example, like DeepSeek, pulled up this chart, created that for me. And you can actually add follow-ups here. So for example, if we highlight this, we click on that, then we'll say add to follow-up. It will take that quote like so. I would say, okay, tell me the key facts and USPs about this, right? And if you want to go really deep, you can add more follow-up questions, but also you can switch between different options, right? So you can select research, or you can turn that into the labs project again, right? So you could create a whole new project specifically about that one thing that you want to research in depth and detail. Here's another one that we pulled up. And if you want to see this in action, so if we go home, labs, and we'll say, right, okay, map the major events in the dashboard of the latest AI updates this year. Include key facts, timelines, etc. Now, it usually says 9 minutes left to gather the resources, but honestly, from what I've seen, it's a lot faster than that. But you can see how it works. And then it agentically breaks down the tasks that it's going to do step by step. So, for example, like it's now searching through the web, reading through different pages. I mean, you can see agentically how fast it's reading through each page as well. And it's kind of got this team, like a research team, that can go off, figure out what tasks to create, search the web, generate the research, create the report, etc. So yeah, basically that's how Perplexity Labs works step by step. If you want to get the full resources, all the links from today, if you want to get a masterclass on Perplexity and exactly how to use it, feel free to get that inside the AI Success Lab, completely free with the examples as well. And this comes with like loads of different courses and tips and tutorials, etc. It's a community of 8,300 people. And if you want to get weekly Q&A calls, coaching, if you want to get community support, if you want to be able to DM me, etc., feel free to get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom. And you can see that we actually announce new updates every single week. As you can see, like this is all the stuff that we updated the community with last week, for example. And then, you know, if someone posts a comment, we're going to get out to them ASAP, right? So, for example, someone was talking about DeepSeek this morning and Perplexity Labs. We already created a video on it based on, you know, knowing what the community wants. And also you can see that we just answer people's questions really quickly. Also comes with all of my best courses, playbooks, etc. for AI agents. And additionally, weekly coaching calls. So we're actually increasing to 3 coaching calls per week. On top of that, inside the AI Profit Boardroom, if you have questions, if you're like, oh, I want Julian to create this automation, etc., each week what we do is we take all the comments on these posts and we turn it into a video tutorial where we just answer people's questions step by step as well. So you get the coaching calls, the live Q&A calls, and a video personalized from me based on exactly what you want to see. So massive value in there. Feel free to get that link in the comments description and hope to see you in there. See what questions we got here. Ashley says, hey Julian, quick off topic. If you would develop a mobile app, what would you do? What would you use? So I'd probably use, I think Bolt can actually do that. Bolt can automate that stuff. And also, if you want to create like a web app, I would say Data Button is the best I've seen so far for creating web apps. So it depends on what you want to build, but for something quick and simple, you can use Bolt and then deploy the app and then submit it to the App Store and get approval that way. So they're probably the top 2 for building out apps and quickly getting them deployed. Got some training on that inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Link in the comments description if you want to get that stuff. Going to come on to the next video in a sec, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask before we move on. Otherwise, I'll set up the next video. As it says, is Data Button better than Lovable? So Lovable, it's very similar to Bolt.new, but Data Button creates something that's much bigger as a project, right? So for example, if you want to create something super complex with like logins, tracking data, maybe connected to Supabase as well, so you know people can use their email address, log in and have a backend, then I would recommend Data Button. Also, it tends to plan out the project much better. And also inside Data Button, you know, you could come back to that every single day and create something better each step, right? It's much more like a longer session that you can improve over time. Whereas, for example, if you wanted to create like a very simple app, then Lovable's what you're going to want. But you're not going to come back to Lovable every single day and you know, iterate on the SaaS tool. Darren says, Julian, if you wanted to refine the data from a sports reporting pattern that predicts outcomes, which we use pattern recognition. Yeah, so I think Perplexity is worth a try. Try Perplexity Labs. Otherwise, you could use like, if you want to spot patterns and that sort of thing, you could also use like, for example, GPT-o3 or ChatGPT-o4 Mini. These are good models because they're really good at data analysis, and they're focused on being able to analyze and really like understand stats, maybe on a level most humans don't, I would say. Alpha says, but from Lovable, we can't get the code of it. So you can download the code from Lovable if you need the code. Like, pretty simple. Otherwise, just get it from Bolt. Like I said, Bolt or Data Button, you can get the code from. Pretty simple and easy as well, that way. Got trading inside the AI Profit Boardroom on both of those if you want to get access. So today we're going to be comparing. Oh, let me have a look here. Today we're going to be comparing Perplexity Labs versus Manus versus GenSpark. Now these are all like agentic AI super agent tools that can go off, create apps, do research, browse the web, etc. If you want to see some examples of what you can build with Perplexity Labs, which has literally just come out, by the way, then let me show you some examples. So here's an example, like it can go off, build dashboards, do research, search the web, etc. But it moves really, really fast. Like, it's a very powerful tool. Here's another one. So it created like a film noir concept for a storyboard on a film and generated the images, the storyboard, the ideas, etc. And you can see some other examples right here. By the way, if you want training on all of these AI super agents, then feel free to get the AI Success Lab, link in the comment description. We have masterclasses and courses and SOPs on each one of these different AI super agents. So we're going to get straight into this. And the first place I'm going to start is with Perplexity Labs. We're going to run the same prompt on each, which is, we're going to say research Julian Goldie and his AI Profit Boardroom community. Then generate a beautiful landing page to sell it, right? And you might be saying, well, can Perplexity code? I actually can now. So it's designed to code, to research, to do tasks agentically. And you can see an example right here. So for example, it can create dashboards, images, but it can also code. So if we have a look at this analysis right here, this is based on code. If we go to the asset section, you can see all the code that is created. So it's actually pretty good at coding, but we'll test it side by side versus Manus and also versus GenSpark in a second as well. So let's run the same prompts inside GenSpark. As you can see, we're running that right now. And also we'll run this inside Manus and just see which one creates the best outputs. Bear in mind as well, you can also deploy assets via Perplexity as well. And it's a pretty powerful tool. So, for example, with Perplexity Labs, they said visualize the Formula One Imola GP qualifying times for 2025 versus 2024, etc. Which teams got faster and slower and why. And then it's created a leaderboard like so. And you can actually flick between the leaderboard and all the reports of that. It's pretty crazy. So we have the research being done here. What I really like about Perplexity is that you actually get the timings. So you can see when it's going to be done, what's going to be done, etc. If we go over to Manus, we can see that Manus is working, but it tends to be a lot slower. However, what you can actually see is you can see a preview of Manus and what it's doing. So you can see the virtual environment, and then here's an example of it just surfing through the web, looking at the AIProfitBoardroom.com and then doing research based on that. If we go over to GenSpark, GenSpark is already creating the web page, which is pretty awesome. So I'd say in terms of speed, GenSpark and Perplexity seem to be winning, and I think GenSpark is probably going to come back to us first, but we'll see that in a second. So whilst Perplexity is still gathering the resources, the data, etc., GenSpark is already coding out. Manus is still kind of stuck in the slow research phase. Now, one thing that I noticed with Manus is I think it's so slow because it's doing a lot of the research via browsing. It's not actually researching itself. It's not actually just scraping through the web and trying to get data that way. What it does instead is it actually has some sort of virtual computer that will browse the web. And obviously, if it's an AI agent and it's clicking on buttons and browsing the web, then it's going to be a lot slower for research tasks. But we'll see how it performs in a second. This looks pretty close to being done. By the way, if you want to see examples of what we built, just check out the courses and SOPs inside the AI Success Lab. You got the links inside this module right here. And then if we, for example, go to Manus and GenSpark, we've actually got a 3-hour course in there. And if you want to see some of the stuff we actually built with it, here's an example. So this was a fantasy game that we built called Medieval Realms Fantasy. And we have a cheeky geezer in 3D just going through the woods and living the medieval dream, as you can see, right? Going through that castle right there. So let's get back to Perplexity now and see what we got. Stuck on 4 minutes. It was 4 minutes ago. All right, so let's have a look at GenSpark now. GenSpark has already created the page, and it's looking like an absolute beauty. Let's open this up and see what we got. So what I like about GenSpark as well is that it actually deploys a page, and this is all based on the actual data. So, for example, you can see it's actually taken the sales copy from my page, and it's generated the copywriting really nicely, right? That's a nice headline. It's designed it nice. It looks super clean on the page. It talks about the problem, so it's using that typical sort of sales copy process. And instead of creating loads of AI drivel and AI slop, it's generated a really nice sales page that honestly I think would convert very well, to be honest with you. Let's have a look at this. Just check if it actually works on the link. So is it sending us to the sales page? It is. Absolutely. I think GenSpark did a 10 out of 10 on that, to be honest. GenSpark's just showing off right there. It did get the price wrong, to be honest with you. That was the old price back on the old days. But you got the idea, right? Which is early beta pricing ends in a couple of days. And the page is looking super nice, right? I would happily deploy that, get that on a subdomain, and get that posted live, right? Probably convert better than our existing school page. Pretty easy to automate, really awesome outputs. So it was the fastest, and also it creates something amazing. Perplexity Labs is still stuck on 4 minutes, and I'm not sure why. And then Manus is still browsing the web. So if I had to declare a winner here, I'm going to say that GenSpark is absolutely crushing it, whilst Perplexity and Manus are absolutely struggling. But we'll come back to that in a second. And in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll run the next task just to wait for the slowpokes to catch up, all right? So we're going to go over to Perplexity now. We'll go into Labs and we'll run the next report. And for this, what I'm actually going to say is create a beautiful report and dashboard that I can present on YouTube that explains all the latest SEO updates this week. Specifically focus on finding research, stats, and relevant updates from May 2025. Nothing generic, no fluff. And make sure it's super recent. Okay. So we're going to use exactly the same prompt to make it fair inside Perplexity as we do inside Manus and GenSpark. So let's get it crack-a-lacking with that. We'll plug that in. Here we go. And then we'll do the same inside GenSpark as well. There we go. They do actually have an AI slides feature, but I'm not going to use that because, you know, I want to keep it fair. I want to show you exactly how each AI agent works step by step. And I don't want to use like a specific feature from GenSpark and then it kind of overpowers the rest, all right? So let's see what we get back from each in a second. In the meantime, we actually have the page from Perplexity and it is looking like a beaut, to be honest with you. So this was the page from GenSpark. This was the page from Perplexity. Manus is now coding out as well. And then we'll come back in a second and we'll just compare them and see how they perform. Because to be honest, Perplexity's page looks pretty good, pretty good. All right. So if we have a look now, you can see the tasks being laid out by Perplexity. Manus, again, is going to be super slow because it's using the browser. And then GenSpark has actually come back to us with some questions first before we do it. So I'm just going to say, okay, yes, sounds great. Make sure it's all recent and relevant to SEO. Thanks. So I think basically the reason why it asks you this before it goes ahead is because GenSpark wants to make sure it's not going to rinse your credits without permission. So it's a pretty good idea. Basically what it's doing is getting permission first, making sure that you're comfortable using that amount of credits, and then it'll go off and do its magic. So 3 minutons left on the report from Perplexity. Manus, I think that's probably going to be 10 to 15 minutes. GenSpark is already coding out the report, which is pretty awesome. Wow. So, yeah, we've got the report back. So this is the first page from GenSpark. Manus taking his time. Perplexity got 3 minutes left. Now, in the meantime, let me show you some other stuff we built with Manus and GenSpark. So, for example, this was an AI SEO tool. Full course right here if you want to get this stuff, by the way. And then you can see that you can basically build SaaS products as well with Manus. If we have a look at GenSpark as well, here's some examples of what we've built. So, I mean, the main thing to understand here between all of these is like, you know, any sort of admin tasks, any basic stuff where it's clicking buttons or doing research or, you know, even building tools that's pretty simple, you know, simple one-click tools. I would say within a year, those jobs are gone. Right, and really, I think it's only going to be like the highest quality, highest skilled jobs that are going to be available, and those jobs are probably going to be ones where, you know, the people who keep those jobs or develop those jobs are the ones who can really like adapt, and they'll be using AI and agents like this to help them, right? So, for example, we have like a retention manager. What he'll do inside the AI Profit Boardroom is he's going to use and create a report to build this stuff out. So here's another one. This is the AI Growth Calculator. And yeah, if you want all this stuff inside the AI Profit Boardroom, if you want to see some examples and a full recipe. So let's go back now. And hopefully Manus is finished. Fingers crossed. It's just taking too long. It's taking too long. All right, I'm giving up on Manus. We'll just compare side by side Perplexity then, and we'll put these in the top 2. So if we have a look at this web page right here, we can view this full screen, right? So it's deployed, and then you can actually share this. So you don't need to ask Perplexity to deploy it or anything like that. It's already shared on this link right here, as you can see. And this is the landing page that we got back, right? And you can share it. This is incognito. I'm not logged in to see this, etc. So it's pretty amazing what Perplexity built, because overnight they've basically got something that's at the same level or even better and faster than something like Manus, right? And Manus was absolutely destroying the market, a couple of months ago. So if we have a look now at the list and we'll compare these outputs side by side. So this is the landing page from Perplexity. And this is the landing page from GenSpark. And you can see that if we compare these side by side, I still think that GenSpark has created something better. So for example, if you look at this, it's not quite responsive at the top. You see how there's like that little design error there? Doesn't look quite as nice. But honestly, they both look good. I mean, the other thing I would say here is like, just for CRO, this flashing button right here is a lot more attractive than this one. If we click on that link, let's see if it actually takes us to the landing page. If we click on join now, where's it taking us? It's not taking us anywhere. All right, so the CTA buttons on Perplexity are actually broken, which means that you'd have to use like another credit to fix that. But it's still not bad, right? It's still not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just GenSpark has created something that's ready to go straight out the box, whereas Perplexity has created something that's nice, but it's not ready to publish yet, right? It needs a lot of work still. Even, for example, like the images, it's just created an image that says Julian Goldie in a turquoise box, right? Whereas GenSpark has like made the boxes a lot more attractive. It's not used fake images or skipped images, etc. And if we compare some of these headlines, so for example, like the frequently asked questions bit here, let's click on this. You see how you can't really read that? Because it's like white on, it's like gray on white text. These are sort of issues that we're getting with Perplexity. However, I would say it's impressive, like what they've managed to do so far and to jump ahead so far quickly. It's really cool. Let's have a look at Manus now. Yeah, Manus is just, has it done it? It says it's completed the current task. Oh, let's have a look. We've got the landing page right here. Well, this is pretty nice. This is pretty nice, to be fair. I don't know who this geezer is. This is not Julian Goldie. But it's looking decent. Let's click and see if this goes straight to the landing page. So for some reason, that link doesn't work, the CTA buttons. Yeah, I'm going to put Manus is a bit slower, but I'd actually say that comes in second, right? It's created some nice images. There's no UI problems here. I think it's going to be responsive as well if we just check. Yeah, so it's in responsive and it's looking good right there for the design and UI. So if I had to place them, I'm going to say GenSpark is winning in terms of speed and design and UI and outputs. Manus comes in second, but it's a little bit slow. You've got to be patient with it. Perplexity comes in last, but it's still a valiant effort by Perplexity. I'm not saying they failed or anything like that. So let's come back to the research report. Perplexity is taking its sweet time. It's got a couple of minutes left. So actually, it's hit and miss for the speed, which is quite interesting as well. But you can see here, it's generating the Python code with the image files. So if we click on that, we should be able to see the assets that it's building for this. Like you can see, we've got the web page right here. So HTML, CSS, and JS. And it's quite interesting to see, like, it's using a combination of deep research, Python coding, image generation, and then also the HTML and everything else, right? So it can build websites, it can code, it can generate images, all in one, which is pretty cool. If you go back to GenSpark here, I really don't like the UI on this. So, for example, you can see that the color of this doesn't quite match. But apart from that, if we scroll up here, it's got some nice charts. It's mentioning Google I/O, which was this month and had a huge impact on the SEO industry, to be fair. and the charts and everything are looking really good, right? Plus, it's moving a lot faster than what I've seen from Manus and Perplexity. However, having said that, let's have a look what we got here. So Manus has completed the task. Where's the dashboard? Let's see if we can deploy this. So it's deploying now. If you want to deploy on Manus, let's say, for example, you create a PDF report like this and you want to deploy it to a website, just type in deploy it inside the chat and then it will go off and start doing that, as you can see. Now, in the meantime, what we can do is actually download the PDF. Or you can actually save it to Google Drive as well, which is a cool feature. So if we open up the SEO report from Manus, like so, I'll compare it side by side. It actually did beat GenSpark in terms of speed, to be fair. So that's surprising to me. But if we compare them side by side, Manus over here with the PDF report and GenSpark with the presentation. There's quite a big difference here in terms of presentability, right? So I said inside the prompt, I want to present this on YouTube. And you can see a big difference between them, right? So the UI is much nicer on GenSpark. It's created a proper report. It's made everything nice and presentable for a YouTube video. We could actually use this, for example. And it just looks a lot nicer. This is super interesting though. It's created like a SEO strategy effectiveness chart. I don't know if that's factually correct, but we're having a look at it. Industry impact analysis. Like the content of this is great, but it's not what we wanted, which is something super presentable for YouTube. So I'm going to say GenSpark is winning so far. Perplexity has come back to us now with a dashboard as well. Let's view this full screen and we'll see what we got here. Ah, that's a beaut, isn't it? That is a beaut. So it's a nice little dashboard. You can actually click on each of these buttons. And then it gives you like the key insights, the featured snippet, click-through rate, etc. Right? It's got some visual analytics here and you can click on them and then bounce off. So it's super interactive, this report. And then we've got the major timelines update in terms of what happened and when it happened this month. However, what's a little bit weird is you've got May the 20th at the top, and then you have May the 27th at the bottom, right? The timeline is kind of weird and zoomed out. However, it's forgivable. It's forgivable. So I would say that genuinely this is the nicest report so far. GenSpark comes in second with its report, and if you just want something that's like a long PDF, but not that presentable, then Manus is coming in, but it's coming in last, right? So Manus came in last for both tasks. Perplexity came in first for this task, but second for the second task. And GenSpark came in first for the first task, and then second for the second task. So I would say genuinely, from what I've seen so far, I would go with GenSpark for website building, but for dashboards, for anything analytical, for reports, etc., I'd probably switch to Perplexity Labs. Like, it's super powerful, creates awesome dashboards, looks great, and very, very presentable, right? You could easily show that on a landing page as well. Also like the fact that it auto deploys to a subdomain, so I could just share that directly with whoever I want as soon as I want. So thanks so much for watching. If you want to get all the notes from today, you can get them inside the AI Success Lab, as you can see right here, and link in the comments description. You can also get all of my courses and SOPs on Manus, GenSpark, and Perplexity directly here inside the resources section. And this comes with loads of different automations, AI stuff, tips on VAO 3, etc. Feel free to get that inside the AI Success Lab. Completely free, link in the comment description. Comes with 8,300 members as well in that community, which is pretty awesome. And a free AI automation strategy session, as you can see as well. If you want to get support, coaching, communities, etc., feel free to get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom. This is an awesome community where this is where basically I hang out, and you know, it's got all my best agent templates, workflows, tutorials, etc. An amazing community of people serious about growing with AI, and weekly coaching calls, Q&As, plus I make a personalized video for you based on your questions inside there. So feel free to get that, link in the comments description. Now, if you just want us to implement all this stuff for you, maybe you want to save a lot of time, you want someone to go off an agency to just build automations for you, feel free to get a free AI automation strategy session. Link in the comments description. You can book in a free AI strategy session and then just book in a call with us, and we'll be happy to help you and basically just plan out step by step what you can automate, how you can automate it, and then the next steps for doing that. So feel free to get that link in the comments description. Appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, by the way, before we move into the next video, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will keep going, my friends. DeepSeek versus Claude 4 Opus versus ChatGPT o3 versus Gemini 2.5 Pro. Who wins? Today we're going to be testing them out side by side in an epic coding gauntlet between these AI models. Bearing in mind that DeepSeek have just released a brand new update called DeepSeek R10528, literally just got announced, and today we're going to be testing all of these models side by side to see who's the winner, who's the best, etc. All right, so you can get all of the prompts that I used today from the AI Success Lab, link in the comments description. And the first prompt that we're going to go with is building an AI-powered SEO therapy chatbot. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to run the prompt inside each of these. We're going to be using Claude Opus 4, and I'm going to make sure that I have extended thinking switched on as well, just to get the most out of each of these models. We'll do the same inside ChatGPT o3, and then we'll do the same inside Gemini. Of course, you want to make sure you have Canvas switched on with Gemini 2.5 Pro in the top right there as well. So let's see who comes back with the best outputs. I'm going to open these up in separate windows just so you can see how fast each one moves as well. And let the coding commence, peeps. So what you can see here is we've got DeepSeek on the left, Claude for Opus over here, ChatGPT o3, and then Gemini 2.5 Pro. Now, what you can see here is that each of these took a similar amount of time to start coding out. I honestly think that it... Oh, look at this. We got Gemini who's come up with the first output. So let's see what we got back here. Dr. Serp. Pretty basic app, to be fair, but we'll see how this performs. And it actually responds to us straight away as well. So we've put hey, hey, and this is working nicely. I'm going to vent my frustrations here. Okay, I got hit by the Google updates. Is it going to reply to me? Actually does, look at that. It's a very expressive AI therapist, to be fair. It's like, oh, honey, those words carry so much pain. I hear you loud and clear, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually surprised this is responding to us. That's pretty crazy. Maybe that's built in, or it's using the AI to do that. I don't know how it's doing that. The UI of Gemini was not that great, but it created the output, and it created it pretty quickly as well. Now I've got the output from Claude. If we move the cursor, it actually uses its eyes to follow us around, like you can see. And then inside here, it says, tell me about your ranking losses. I'm here to listen. I say, I miss my SEO traffic. And it said, it actually came back to us and said, I hear you, losing your top 3 positions, blah, 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 must be hard. I'm actually going to open that up in a separate tab just to make it easier to view. And there we go, right? I say what to do. But it doesn't really seem to give me answers that are like relevant to what I'm talking about. Does that make sense? So for example, it says, I said what to do, and it said, it's completely normal to feel this way. Remember, you are more than your domain authority. You have intrinsic value beyond page rank. It's quite a funny, creative sort of response, but it actually doesn't answer our questions, whereas Gemini seemed to. What would be interesting is actually if you could plug in an API key and then get outputs based on the AI. GPT-03, has it come back to us? Yeah, it's come back to us. All right, let's preview this bad boy, see what we got. We'll allow that. So GPT-03 seems to have totally failed. You can see it says an error message right there. So the UI does not work at all. So I'm going to place that behind Gemini and Claude so far. I would say that Gemini is winning simply because it gave us the most relevant responses when we asked it questions. And then DeepSeek R1 is giving us an output, but it's in Python. I'm going to say turn that into HTML and see what we get back in a sec. History Byte says Gemini 2.5 Pro is better at coding but worse at other things. Yeah, I mean, every model has their weaknesses, right? So, for example, if you want to generate like an article or a blog, honestly, I don't even need to check all these. I would say that Claude 4 Sonnet creates the best outputs by far. Gemini is really good at coding, but it's not the best model out there, to be honest with you. Just waiting for this to come back from DeepSeek. It's holding us back here, slowing us down. I'll put on the next prompt to use HTML instead. ChatGPT 03 is almost guaranteed to come in last here, unless DeepSeek gives us something really bad. In the meantime, we'll come back to DeepSeek whilst it's generating that, because it might take a little while. And we'll move on to the next task. Which is build a schema shogun puzzle game. You're a samurai cutting and placing structured data into HTML scrolls, match FAQs, blah, 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 and we'll turn that into a game as well. All right. So let's wait for DeepSeek R1 to load. The page right here. So what I might do is just go over to OpenRouter instead. Alright, so we're going to run this inside DeepSeek and then we'll compare it against the rest as well. Let's go inside Opus here. We've got ChatGPT 03 ready to go, and then Gemini as well, Gemini 2.5 Pro. Again, I think on all of these, from what I've seen, DeepSeek is by far the slowest. Now we can actually run this. So let's click on run and see what we get back. It said before we begin, what's your domain name? We'll go with OK. And then we've got the chatbot ready here. Right? The UI is actually better than Gemini 2.5 Pros, which is awesome. And if we go inside, okay, we'll do a little chat here. It's writing back to us. How are you feeling about your SERPs? I'm going to say terrible. And then it sends the same message again. All right. So if I had to give, let's see if this, we'll give it one final shot. Absolutely terrible, say Sunshine. Oh, it's just it's a broken record, mate. You'd give up on that therapist quickly. How are you feeling about your SERPs today? It's asked us that 3 times. The UI is great, but the actual back end terrible. So if I had to grade each one of these, I'm going to go with Gemini 2.5 Pro as a winner, Claude 4 Opus coming in second, DeepSeek coming in third. UI was great, but the functionality was terrible. And then finally, the final one I would say is ChatGPT o3. Didn't create anything. Now, bear in mind, DeepSeek is free, and you can even code with it for free with the free API off OpenRouter, whereas, for example, ChatGPT o3 is paid, right? And it can be pretty expensive, I think, on the API as well. So we're going to close that. We know who the winners are, and we're waiting for each of these to load on the next task. So we have the output again, Gemini and then Claude come in terms of speed. So these are the fastest models by far. And then we've got Schema Shogun, slice the data into the correct thing. But it doesn't really seem to do anything. It doesn't make any sense. All right, let's close that. I'm going to say inside Claude, just to get a better output, and I'll do the same inside Gemini as well. Let's just say, like, make this kind of like a 3JS Samurai runner game. We'll do the same inside Gemini, so same prompt inside Gemini and Claude. We have the output back from ChatGPT o3. Let's preview that. There we go. That's working nicely, to be fair. I'm just going to say, okay, make this like a 3JS runner game on that too. And then DeepSeek is still, well, it's coding out now. I'm just going to stop it, and then I'm going to say the same thing inside here. And we'll wait for each of these to load. So Gemini actually has an error on this. We'll try and get that fixed. And then ChatGPT o3 says stop the HTML and then run it again. It's got a bug, so we'll try and fix that. back in a sec, peeps. Here we go. So we got Gemini ready to go. Let's play this bad boy. It's got sound effects. There we go. Oh, no, 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 no. It's not much of a samurai, though. That's what I don't like. Claude is stuck. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. ChatGPT is not working. DeepSeek is still coding away. Here we go. Alright, so we got Opus 4 ready to go. We got a little samurai stickman. Just collecting honor. That's probably the best output so far, to be fair. So ChatGPT 03 just doesn't seem to be working at all. I'm just going to preview that once more. Yeah, it's not working. And we got the HTML back from DeepSeek, so let's test this out. Begin the journey. Ah, okay. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But that's the most playable, to be fair. Gemini, it's too basic. I'm sure if you go back and forth inside the chat here, you could create something interesting. But Claude is winning by far, to be fair. Like, that's an actual playable game. Again, like, you could go back and forth with the details a lot more if we had more time. But just as a quick preview, I'm going to say that Claude won here. So if I was to choose any of these, I've got to go with Claude. Now, let's create something a bit more basic, just to give each a chance. So we're going to go back to Claude, DeepSeek, Gemini, and 03. And by the way, if you want the prompts from today, feel free to get them inside the AI Success Lab. I'm going to run this prompt for dopamine space invaders. So I think at this point, just to recap here, let's turn that off, it should be on 03. So just to recap here, if I had to pick one so far, Gemini, I would say, is probably performing the best. DeepSeek is creating good stuff as well. Claude as well is up there, but ChatGPT is not even in the race at this point. So ChatGPT o3 finished first here. Let's test this out. Here we go. So space fires, here we go. That's a pretty nice game, to be fair, nice effects. I like the background of all the stars and everything like that. It's looking pretty cool. Gemini looks just about finished. DeepSeek still coding, and we got Claude ready to go as well here. Claude, you can actually control the game with your mouse, it looks like. And here's the shoot button. I would say that's still better than, for example, GPT-03. If you look at the effects, the screen moving, the colors, the way you can control the mouse, the feel, etc. It's still better than 03, but 03 did okay. So have a look at Gemini now. So Gemini is finished. This is looking pretty nice. I like the retro feel. It's got sound effects as well. That's what we're talking about. Oh yeah, Gemini's winning. You old rogue. He's crushing it. Alright. Let's try DeepSeek. DeepSeek is still taking his time. I think so far from the tests, I would say though that Claude Opus has created the best outputs each time, right? It's a close tie between Gemini 2.5 Pro and Opus. But I just think Opus is overpowered in terms of what it can create, the functionality, etc. It's pretty awesome. So we got the results back from DeepSeek. Let's play this. It's lagging. It's not bad, but it's lagging. Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's pretty conclusive then. So, for example, Claude Opus would be my pick from all of these. And I know some people are going to hate me for that in the comments and say that Gemini is a GOAT. But yeah, I'm going to go with Opus, then Gemini. DeepSeek comes in a solid third, right? It's definitely better than ChatGPT o3 from what I've seen. And o3, it really only worked on the last test. It didn't work on the rest. So, thanks so much for watching. If you want to get access to all the notes from today, all the prompts, etc., feel free to get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom. This also comes with courses on DeepSeek. You can see the links here. Courses and recipes on DeepSeek, Claude 4, 2.5 Pro, and GPT-03. So, for example, if we click on this link, you can see we actually have a 4-hour course on DeepSeek via this link. Claude 4 as well, we have full courses on. So feel free to get this stuff inside the AI Success Lab along with all the prompts from today if you want to test this stuff out. And if you want to get coaching support, community access, if you want to get Q&As, if you want to be able to interact with me, etc., feel free to get that inside the AI Profit Boardroom. You can also ask any questions you have inside there. I'm very active inside this community. Comes with lots of templates, agents, workflows, all the stuff that I've actually implemented inside my business. I mean, it's fun creating games, but let's talk about what's actually going to make you money and save you time. That stuff is all included inside the class.